try and watch this video to the end and listen to what the parliament have to say. All right, my people, before I continue, good morning, my amazing people. Good afternoon, good evening. I greet you all according to your time. I remain your humble girl, Anointed Lady TV. Please, if you are new here, you are highly welcome. Or you have been watching me, you've not subscribed. Please today kindly hit that red button where they will subscribe and put on the notification bell so that whenever I upload any video, you will be notified. To all my returning subscribers, thank you very much for tuning in, and to my new subscribers, you are welcome. Our leaders wrote 99 petition against the
ground of Nigeria and Nigerians. It's a great country with great people, spirited people. Whatever good and bad out there, of course, but I tell you, from my personal experience, it is either as a result of the government's handling of Nigerians, the country, how we have responded and reacted. No excuses. Now, specifically to the day, 20th of October, 2020, we had such Nigerians there, spirited, focused, united in one goal: against injustice, against police brutality, against bad governance. What started out as a protest against police brutality, especially the unit called SARS, unfortunately just degenerated into something I still find it hard to reconcile with in my heart. I remember being there at the protest. I was on stage with some beautiful organizers of that particular day's event. And we were informed that there was a curfew for 3 p.m. I do remember that there was outrage on Twitter because it was short notice. The curfew, I think we got the information at about noon that day. And so we said, look, people came from all over Lagos. It was thousands of people there. The best thing we can do if people can't make it home, we'll sit still, don't do anything, don't move. We'll sit still and we'll sleep over till night. It was at the toll gate. And then later on, we got, sorry about that. And then later on, we got, I'm so sorry. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, great. I'm getting some messages in my ear. Okay, so we also got information later that the governor wanted to see me and 6 other people. And I remember saying to them that we have no leader. If the governor wanted to speak to us, he should kindly come to the toll gate and address Nigerians because we've been out for over 11 days. And then the lady that came to give us the information, I do not remember her name at this time, left. She came back some 30 minutes later to inform us that the curfew had been cancelled and moved to 9 p.m. I remember telling the people there this information and people cheered. While this was going on, another member that was standing behind me came up to me and said, someone is taking out the cameras from the toll gate. And I said, do you recognize who? Because we had I think the real heart of Nigerians there. We did not destroy anything except for graffiti. We did not take anything. We did not take anything from the toll gate. We cleaned up after ourselves. So wanted to be sure it wasn't happening. Well, it wasn't a protester that was doing that. And then we found out that it was one of the staff, or, he had the LCC uniform. Those are the people that manage the toll gate. So he took a picture just to keep and, to sort of use as proof that we didn't destroy or take anything. And then we realized that the big billboard that is over the toll gate had been turned off. And so just before 7, it was like to 7, maybe quarter to 7, not too sure on the exact time, but to 7, we heard gunshots coming from behind. At first it was chaotic because we didn't know where the gunshots were coming from. We didn't know what the gunshots were about. And then the lights went off. I think the rest of that is just the most tragic thing. I thought I was going to die. I thought we're all going to die. And it was in that moment that I said, let me go live on Instagram so people see what happened to us. People see where we were killed. I just believed that was what was going to happen. And I remember the military came in first. They stopped shooting at some point, and I walked up to one of them and I asked him why he was shooting at us. And he said he had express orders from above. and that I was coming too close to him. And if I came too close, it would be considered an attack on him and he would have to shoot. So I moved back and asked everyone to move back. It didn't take maybe another 10 minutes. The shooting started again. I remember seeing 7 people that had been shot down. And we were telling people on my live Instagram to please help us call ambulances, to please help us call CNN, Al Jazeera, Fox News, anybody, BBC, just so that people see what's going on. And then when we noticed that people had called ambulances because we just saw an ambulance coming the first time. But then we noticed the ambulance was stopped by another set of military at the back, which we didn't realize that it was a 3-line formation. So there were military people behind us, in front of us, and another line behind the ones in front of us. And so they stopped the first ambulance. They sent it back. So I remember saying on my live that they're turning the ambulances away. The second one came, they turned it back. And then the third one came from our back. I really don't know how he got in, but he got in. So we had to rush. There was an elderly man who was shot on the side. We had to rush him to the ambulance. After this part, everything sort of died down
DJ Switch. Yeah, we will get an opportunity through questions to hear more of your story. It's very compelling. Okay. We do want to hear it, but we are going to move just so we can get through the witnesses and then get into questions. So we're going to move to Osai Ojigo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and for the opportunity to share a bit more light on the current situation in Nigeria. I would like to begin by stating that on the face of it, Nigeria is very compliant with human rights. It has ratified many international treaties, including the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. However, human rights violations and abuses are prevalent. The #EndSARS protest movement arose due to the widespread human rights violations, including torture and extrajudicial killings by the police in the country. It all started when a viral video of a man shot by officers of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, of the Nigerian Police Force on 3rd October 2020 in Delta State was trending online. It elicited a lot of anger because people were just shocked by the brazen act of SARS. While the campaign for End SARS was not new, it was the first time in October 2020 that street protests were made under the banner. Earlier in the year, in June 2020, Amnesty International Nigeria released the report, Time to End Impunity, where we documented at least 82 cases of abuse by SARS between January 2017 and May 2020. The findings showed that SARS officers carried out torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment as punishment on detainees or as a tool for extracting information and for extortion. They seized money and property from suspects to enrich themselves rather than to bring criminals to book. Our research showed that young persons, especially young men between the ages of 17 and 30, are most at risk of arrest, torture, or extortion by SARS. Even journalists were harassed, coerced, and threatened, especially when they are covering stories or failing to disclose sources to the officers. Nigerian government adopted the Anti-Torture Act in 2017. This law criminalizes torture in Nigeria. However, no SARS officer or any police officer for that matter has been convicted of torture in the Nigerian court, despite the fact that torture is actually quite pervasive by security agents. The impact of the End SARS protest was huge because nearly 30 out of the 36 states had hosted at least one protest. Lagos had the most venues and the largest number of people gathering to protest against this brutal tactical unit. On Tuesday, 20th of October 2020, which we now call Black Tuesday, Nigeria's military forces opened fire at peaceful protesters at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos. There were other shootings by police in other communities in Lagos that day, leaving at least 12 people dead in Lagos. Amnesty International noted that at least 56 people have died across the country since the protest began up till 20th of October. In many cases where the security forces intervened in the protest, they had used excessive force in an attempt to control or stop the protest. There's evidence that talks were not stopped, especially when they were trying to disrupt this protest. It's important to stress also that there have been several panels set up by the government to resolve these issues, yet they have never followed up the recommendations. There have been threats against human rights defenders, activists, NGOs, and Amnesty International for speaking against injustice. Recently, just on Wednesday, November 4th, Amnesty International was threatened by an unknown group suspected to be sponsored by the Nigerian military. They have given Amnesty International Nigeria 7 days to leave the country. Otherwise, they are going to inflict violence and arson on us and on our premises. The atmosphere of fear is distracting and preventing many human rights defenders and activists from demanding for accountability. It also puts frontline advocates at risk of being attacked by non-state actors. Nigeria needs to be reminded of their international obligations to protect everyone within their territory without discrimination. And we hope our testimony today would help the committee in arriving at what sort of pressure to put on Nigeria to do the right thing. I thank you.
Osayi Ojigo, thank you. And now moving to the Biafrans in Canada Community Association, we have Tim Okafor and Stella Kemidirium. You will have 5 minutes total between yourselves, so 5 minutes.
Thank you, committee members. I want to specifically talk about the aftermath of the NSAS movement and protest. After the protest, we saw a large number of people arrested by Nigerian government. A lot of them hasn't been processed, but I want to specifically bring attention to what is happening in Obibo in Rivers State. Now, this is a fallout from the NSAS protest. So many police stations were burned throughout southern Nigeria, mostly in most of the states. Youth had reacted to what witnesses have described here as high-handedness by the SARS group and other military groups and security agencies, extrajudicial killings, torture, many, all kinds of atrocities that are meted to people. Now, the governor of Rivers State had imposed a curfew and made a declaration that indigenous people of Biafra, I represent the organization of the Biafrans that live here in Canada, had committed crimes of killing either police or army or burning police station. And because of that, he placed a curfew on 4 communities, Obibo, Ikoku, Maiwan, and Oil Mill. I want to point out that these particular communities are inhabited by Biafrans and the Igbo especially. We know the ethnic composition of Nigeria. So many times, Nigerians are blinded by ethnicity. They do not see themselves as one country. So the government uses that. It brings up one community against the other. And that again kills the nationalistic philosophy of the nation. But let me stay here. The reason why I'm saying is that while we look at what had happened before, my attention is focused on what is actually happening right now. From the people that we speak on the ground, they've told us that at least 300 young men have lost their life between when government imposed this curfew. What he did was that he let people in their house without proper food and medication for over going to 3 weeks now. Now, if you come out because you ran out of food or medication and you're a young man between 18 and 30 years, you are shot, you are arrested, you're brutalized. There's all kinds of pictures and videos are watched on social media. I've spoken to the person we have on the ground, the pastor, And even the kind of things he narrated, the amount of people that are dying, are being killed and shot and are arrested. There was one specific incident where an ambulance had come to carry the cops. The military men stopped the ambulance and set the ambulance on fire with the people inside it. Now, I got the information to speak to you today on a short notice as at yesterday. So what I intend to do is I've spoken to our people on the ground to have names, time, all the things we can document so that after this meeting, I'll make that available to this committee, the names of the people who are killed, the impact on their families, what happened. And then one of the striking things they told me is that when they do this, the first thing they do is to make sure nobody get a picture of them. So if you're using a cell phone to capture this incident, they came down with snipers. The federal government sent at least 3,000 soldiers in each state of southeastern and southern Nigeria. So my appeal is to stop the killing going on right now before we can get to other things, because people are falling. They are human beings. Their lives matter, just like the lives of every single individual matter. So there's all kinds of things taking place as I speak to you now. I will send in documents, videos, audios, so that if this community can send someone down to verify the veracity of those information, that'd be very, very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Okafor. Thanks so much. And on that, being able to send in documents, please, any documents, any information that you would like to send through the clerk. Now we're going to move to questions, and the members are going to have an opportunity to ask the witnesses questions. We're starting with Ms. Ikra Khalid from the Liberal Party.
Thank you very much,
for 7
Mr.
minutes.
Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I thank all of the witnesses here for your very compelling testimony. I would like to start by giving Ms. Switch the opportunity to finish her narrative of the events that Ms. Ojigo also highlighted as well. Ms. Switch, take your time, but I hope that you'll leave me some time to ask some follow-up questions. Just in your remarks, also, if you can address the Cybercrime Act in Nigeria and its impact on your advocacy in the online space as well. So please go ahead, Ms. Switch.
Okay, so just to quickly round that up, so like you said, I can leave you some time. We were able to sort of hold our ground, and then the military left after a commandant came, and we got his name. I think they must have, we just guessed they must have found out that there were a lot of people that were watching what was going on. But 45 or 50 minutes later, the police came and did the same thing and actually killed people. So that's just to wrap it up as quickly as possible. With regards to cybercrime in Nigeria, I think that's if I understand your question. Yes, it's a problem. It is a problem. And just like I said when I started speaking, that we've got something about Nigerians. We're very hardworking, and we have this survival, instinct at every level. There's this desperate need to survive, and not excusing that act because it is criminal, But all I'm saying is something led to something, and there's not enough sensitization. There's not enough education, for people to understand what they can use their skills for actually, so it's a broad scope. It's something that needs to be addressed for intelligent people in Nigeria who don't use it for anything but to do criminal things online. Just to address that. Yeah.
Thank you. And Ms. Switch, if you can identify and highlight for us, what has your life been like since that fateful day, and how you are doing after that fact?
I've been on the move because it was 2 days after my live. The first threat came in. I thought it was a joke. I sincerely thought it was a joke. I was on my way home, because I had been on the street for 2 days straight. But just as I was leaving, because some of my colleagues in the same industry as I am, tried to come get me out of the hospital. I was sort of vouching for one of the boys that we took in there. He was shot in the neck by a policeman. And just as I left, I got a phone call telling me I should please leave the vicinity, that there were military men at the hospital. And I think they found that out because on my story as well, I was thanking the manager of the hospital for letting us into his hospital and for treating us for free. So I think that's how they got that information. So I had to abandon my home. I moved from people's homes, like different places. I stayed in someone's property that they hadn't lived in for a long time. And then just to get out of Nigeria, I made short videos of my trip, just getting to where I am today. And I'm still traveling. So I'm not even done with my trip. And it's like in a forest just to get out of Nigeria. I still, when I put a cotton bud in my left ear, I bleed from there. I have a picture of that as well. I've been trying to document everything. I barely sleep. It's crazy. I can imagine parents who actually can't find their kids now because they've moved bodies. So I don't know.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Switch. I really, really hope that things improve. I'll turn to Ms. Ojigo with respect to your comments about Amnesty International and your ability to operate in Nigeria. You had mentioned that you've been asked to leave the country. We've seen, and you also mentioned that this End SARS movement is not new. What is different in this instance that has brought such large volumes of protests that has really highlighted this issue within the Nigerian people?
Thank you very much. I'll start with your last question. A lot of things have been building up in Nigeria in the last couple of years. So it was in 2017 that the End SARS hashtag started trending online. Last year, there was a visit by the Special Rapporteur of the United Nations on extrajudicial unlawful killing. And in her preliminary observations, she noted that the lack of accountability in Nigeria for crimes committed by the state officials is actually leading to that we're actually sitting on a keg of gunpowder. So the early warning signs have been there for a pretty long time, and it's kind of like peaked, showing that the government needed to address this issue. If people complain, you need to ensure that justice is served. So I guess that when that video on the 3rd of October was trending, people just had enough. And also because that month happened to be our independence month, anniversary month as well. Nigeria is celebrating 60 years of independence. So for young people, it's like, what's the future going to look like? I think there was a lot of mixed feelings celebrating our independence from Britain. So all of this culminated in addition to we're experiencing one of the worst economic recession of all times in recent times. Prices of things have gone up. So people are like, we can't even walk free on our streets. So we need justice to happen. With regards to the threat to Amnesty International, it's by a group that we suspect is being sponsored by the Nigerian military. We've not been able to directly link them together, but we've been having threats. We've been having staged protests in front of Amnesty offices whenever we release reports. And we've noticed that it's always when there's been a report linked to the military, we'll just have protesters in front of our office. And we have videos to show that afterwards they go and share money and then they leave. But why this threat is particularly worrying for us is not because they've asked us to leave Nigeria. They've asked us many times to do that. But because we are coming out of a period where there's been wanton killings and destruction of property across the country. We've been campaigning against the police.
Thank you.
And so we feel the people that can protect us might not be in the position to do so. Thank you.
We're going to move to the Conservatives with Mr. Chu for 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nigeria, it's actually very close to my heart. My father once worked in Lagos for a few years, and back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. So I understand the country through him a lot. Of course, it's been quite a long time since. So I'm going to fire off a few quick questions just to update my expectation on the country itself. It will be appreciated if any of the witnesses can actually take that on. So the first question I have is, assuming that there is an effective police complaint mechanism, has that path been exercised?
I can respond to that question with the permission of the chair.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So Nigeria has the police complaints unit, complaints response unit. They receive complaints, but generally it's complaints to settle causes. Those complaints have not led to greater improvement for prosecuting officers when they've committed crimes. There's also the police oversight body known as the Police Service Commission, and there have been a lot of challenges in terms of it's a commission that lacks a lot of powers to actually take cases of discipline and prosecution of officers independently. It's often headed by a retired police commissioner. So we believe those are some of the challenges those units have.
Thank you. Appreciate that you have actually answered my two other questions here. The other question I have is, will government agents, so police or military, be ever arrested or charged? I'm trying to assess the independence of the judiciary system in current Nigeria. Mr. Chair, it's open to any of the witnesses.
Yes, please, witnesses, anybody that would have an answer or information.
Well, I think I can say something here with regards to police being charged. I'm just going to be straight up and tell you, no. There is the facade of policemen being charged. There's the facade of justice, being served, but it's never served, and it has devolved to the point where a policeman can actually say in front of a camera that he would do anything to you and nothing will happen. So that's the short answer.
Thank you.
I've just joined this meeting in Nigeria. Just joined as one of the witnesses, a member of the National Assembly. If you are hearing me.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on. My next set of questions is about the freedom of information flow in Nigeria to date. Does government have control of media in general? In other words, via strong-armed media, so direct control, or funded biases, so soft-armed control?
Can I say something on that?
Yes, please.
Well, it will appear on the surface that there's freedom of information, that the press is free to speak or write on issues, but that's not really what is on the ground. Now, corruption has hidden deep into the Nigerian society that you can literally, if you want somebody to write anything on the newspaper, you can call journalists and give them envelopes. In fact, in one of the politicians, when he was rebuked for remarks he made, he was on a press conference and somebody asked him a question. And he told the journalist, you are one of those people that get envelope from people. So the state of journalism has been gradually dying. There were days of Delegiwa, a renowned journalist that does investigative journalism. Government sent him a letter bomb and he died. Just a way to intimidate people. And that has continued. And then when you put in the mix that there's several ethnic groups in Nigeria competing. So there's these biases in order to frame this question. So in summary, there's no press freedom.
Appreciate that.
I would like to add something to that, please, if you wouldn't mind. Yes, my name is Abdrazak Namdas, but I want to say that I've also practiced journalism in Nigeria for close to 20 years, and I happen to be, can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes.
I happen to practice for over 20 years, and the question, if I got him right, is that his government has control over the media. I want to say that in Nigeria, the government has liberalized the media. People have own private media houses, both electronic and the print media. Of course, government also owns its own media. That is, we talk of NTA, like the one they control. I think the practitioners are the one having problem. If you collect bribe and they write for people, that will not be blame of government. What we are talking is the state, or the state actually stopping people from publishing. I would say yes, because
Thank
we
you,
have
Mr. Thank you, Mr. Nandas.
And
in the interest of time.
Thank you, Mr. Chu.
How much time
we are
I have?
pressed, well, the time is over, so we're pressed for time.
Okay,
we're going to move to thank you to the block member, Mr. Brunel Duceppe, please, for 7 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'd like to apologize to all of the witnesses. My lateness was not because of a lack of respect. There were simply technical problems in my...
Et je vous remercie d'être là aujourd'hui avec nous.
I'd like to thank you. You are here because you need international assistance. I think if you're here, that's the proof. I know that Nigeria is a signatory to the 9 major human rights international rights treaties. We're talking about the Convention Against Torture. We're talking about the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. In other words, officially, Nigeria has signed, it has ratified many of these agreements. But if you're here, it's because the International Committee needs to act. So perhaps I could begin with a question for Madame Ojingo. According to you, what is the international community's responsibility regarding the violations of these covenants?
Thank you very much. The international community's responsibility is to impress upon Nigeria to respect the rights of everyone within its territory.
Il faut dire au Nigeria de respecter tous les gens qui habitent sur son territoire et de respecter ses obligations internationales en vue du droit international.
Crime that goes unpunished, it means that the rest of the world is even in greater danger of losing its humanity. So there's a moral duty as well as a legal obligation for the government to ensure justice is served.
Mais selon vous, comment la communauté internationale?
But according to you, how should the international community react? What can we do in order to help you? Clearly, we have to act.
Yes, one thing that has worked a lot is messages to the Nigerian president, in fact, that the violence needs to stop and protection for human rights defenders. For the justice mechanisms to work, witnesses and human rights defenders should have the safety and protection to be able to appear to share their testimony. As you've heard from some of the witnesses today, they are in hiding because the government is not, the country is not safe for them anymore. And this, I think, is already inhibiting the justice mechanisms that the government has set itself for it to be effective. So without that protection, it cannot happen. So an observation mission to Nigeria would help because that would prevent situations like this where witnesses are put on no-fly lists or are in danger and the government does not provide the police to protect them in order for them to attend, give their testimony, and are safe from non-state actors who want to harm them or who want to prevent the truth from happening. So an observation mission was something that we would encourage at this time.
Là, j'imagine.
So we're hearing you, we're listening to your testimony today, and you're talking to us. But I would imagine on the other side, the Nigerian government also has to make representations to say that everything is just fine and nothing's going wrong in the country. Have you heard anything about what the Nigerian government is doing? And I'm asking all witnesses this question. So any of you could answer the question, please.
Can I respond?
Yes.
Okay, it's Stella Pemdo I'm talking. I just wanted to add to what my colleague, Mrs. Ojingo, said. Ojingo, I hope I'm saying that correctly. In addition to what we can expect from the international community. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what I think an observation mission would be excellent, and it would address your last question about what is the Nigerian government saying. Nigerian government can say one thing, but what they do is another thing. So I think an observation mission is an excellent idea. But in addition to that, what I would suggest, which can be easily done at the international level by Canada even, because Canada does have some trade relationship with Nigeria. So one thing that can actually make a great impact, in my opinion, is to impose sanctions. That has always worked in the past, and it can work in this situation. I think it will send a strong message to the government, because right now, the Nigerian government feels they're not accountable to their citizens, to anybody. And that has to stop. We Nigerians in diaspora, we have families there. It's only my immediate family that's here. So every night we're hearing stories. We're afraid for their safety. When it comes to police brutality, there is no excuse. Police are supposed to protect the citizens. For them to turn on the citizens, it's just not acceptable. And then in addition, please, just one more comment, I think that would be helpful. The perpetrators need to be brought to justice. They need to be held accountable. The police, the government or the police department, to answer what your question as to what are they doing, they claim that they have disbanded the SARS unit. They claim they have put up another unit, SWAT unit, they call it.
Yes, SWAT.
The violence that's happening continues. So to me, these are band-aid solutions. The perpetrators, from the governors, from the chief of police, they need to be held accountable. They need to be brought to justice. Those two measures, I think, is a start. I think if we could impose them at the international level, I think we will see an immediate difference to the lives of these people, to their safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernal-Dessep. We're going to move now to the NDP and Ms. McPherson for the short time that we have left, about 4 minutes max.
Okay, Max. So thank you very much. I want to say thank you to all of the witnesses who've come and shared with us. It's so hard to hear what's happening in your country, and I have never been to Nigeria. I've spent a lot of time in Africa, and I have never made it to your country, and I certainly hope to one day. One of the questions I think that I should just follow up in is a few of the questions that my colleague from the block has asked in terms of what we can do. So I do hear that a observation mission would be appropriate, or would be something that would be very desirable. Unfortunately, during the current context of COVID-19, that's very unlikely to be possible. So I am looking at those things that we could do to aid you. One of my questions is, what have other countries offered? What have we seen? If you could give me a scan of what's been happening at the multilateral level. So the history of the statements that we've been seeing out of the United Nations, out of all of those multilateral bodies, as well as support coming from within the African communities, as well as outside of that. If any of you could speak to that, that would be great.
If I could speak on that, in terms of the observation mission, we know you have a consulate in Nigeria, and they've participated in some meetings that the government has set for diplomatic community. So it might mean liaising with your commission and consulate and others, friendly countries, to see how they can sort of do some sort of delegation in terms of what is going on ground, because they have observed elections in our country. So perhaps they can also look at the justice mechanisms and raise very serious concerns about what is going on in the country. Other countries like the UK, for example, have issued very strongly worded statements saying they're observing and watching. But the fear is that harm would have already been committed if there's no sort of measure for the government to show that it's doing good by its people. And I guess that is where the missing block is. If that was effective, DJ Switch should not be looking for a way out. In fact, she would be under some witness protection program, and the government would be seeking some justice. So the pressure needs to be, we are seeing what is happening. There's breakdown of law and order. If this is not happening, it might end up leading to some serious complaints before the Security Council at the United Nations, or even some of the special mechanisms to begin to act and question what is going on in the country.
And can you tell me, is there been any move to from neighboring countries to support emergency refugee or protection to allow people to travel outside of Nigeria for their own protection at this time? You know, I'm quite worried about you, about all of you, and your safety. And obviously, we've heard from the witnesses that their families that are in Nigeria are at great risk. Has there been that opportunity? Would that be an option for you? Some sort of an immigration or emergency refugee supports?
If I may come in here,
that would be useful.
Yes, please go ahead, please, DJ Switch.
Oh, okay, sorry. If I may come in here, just from my own little experience, just getting myself out of Nigeria and also coming across some military personnel of another country, when they saw my identification, the first thing they did was turn me back. Now, this is not to discredit the nation. If you notice, I didn't mention the name, and I didn't do that on purpose. It is because they don't even want the trouble.
Yeah.
When I started at the beginning of my own testimony, I said Nigeria is a great nation. It's pretty much the heart of Africa. If we can get our acts together, I believe strongly Africa will begin to get itself together. A lot of countries. Yes, a lot of countries benefit from Nigeria, and that's a fact, but it's just right there at the top level. There are people who can't fly out of Nigeria right now, and that's why I literally had to walk out of Nigeria.
I know I don't have any more time, but I do want to just say that with leaders like you, DJ Switch, with all of you here today, I have great hope for Nigeria, but we will be watching this very closely, and we will be continuing to study this after. I know we have to stop for a moment.
Yeah, and thank you. So before we suspend, as Ms. McPherson just said, we'd like to echo that. So for your advocacy, your bravery, your courage, thank you so much. Thank you for informing our committee. This is the British parliamentary system. We are going to suspend members. When we come back, we will be coming back in camera and to discuss committee business. Thank you.
Thanks for watching to the end, guys. I really appreciate you for supporting me. And if you love this video, please don't forget to give me a huge like, leave your comments below, and also subscribe to this channel. Not only subscribing, also put on the notification bell so that you will be getting more updates from this channel. And one more other thing, don't forget that Nigeria government wrote petition against DJ Switch Asylum in Canada. We will surely win this race. Don't worry about that. I remember Humble Girl, Anointed Lady TV. Until I come your way again, I love you all. Bye-bye.